What's up, YouTube? Welcome back. So in this video, I want to talk about and explore a question that a retired NBA player named Steven Jackson posed on social media. And basically the question that he posed was, it was a few questions, like a few questions wrapped together in one big question. All right. Basically he's saying and asking, why don't you see black women with non-black NFL players or NFL hopefuls during drafts, right? And why don't you see non-black players surrounded by black people during NFL drafts, right? And I just think this is an interesting question. And as well, he went on also to say like, oh, you'll see black players surrounded by non-black people, and you'll even see like black players in same-sex relationships surrounded by non-black people and with non-black partners, white partners. But you don't ever seem to see that kind of like in reverse, where it's like there's a white person surrounded by majority black people, or like a white NFL hopeful with his black girlfriend or black wife. Um, and very interesting question. However, the more important question is, why don't you see more black players with black girlfriends or wives like you see their white counterparts with? I think that's a interesting question and an important question that needs to be brought up during all this as well. But of course, it tends to center around black women, right? Of course, it always circles back to black women when it's about some form of blame or some form of criticism within the black community, right? But like, I'm personally asking, like, does this dude really give a fuck though? Because like, wasn't this dude just saying like a few weeks ago or a little while ago that he doesn't date black women? So it's a bit interesting that he would present a question like this. Personally, I think that homeboy is just trying to sneak diss black women. I think that's at the center of this. Just a sneak diss on black women. Again, he said that he doesn't date black women. He referred to black women as being bitter, or at least some form of phrase. I don't think he meant like all black women are bitter, but he specified bitter black women in regards to his personal situation with baby mamas, even though he says he doesn't date black women. But I guess maybe at one point he did, but now he doesn't. I don't know. But the woman that I saw him with, who he left at the altar or whatever, she seemed like she was like black-ish. She seemed like she would be like more like a lighter skinned black person, but I don't know. I don't know how people identify. But I just, I find that to be a little interesting too, because then if the criticism comes up about, oh, you don't date black women, then it's like, oh, well, this woman I dated, she's black, and then it go down to like, oh, we come in so many different shades and colors and varieties. The black rainbow. Acro iris negro. It's just so much, right? Just to avoid having to answer and to be culpable for, um, anti-black colorist sentiments, preferences, etc. Um, but me personally, I don't really think he gives a fuck like that. I really don't think that he really cares about it on behalf of black women like that. Like, I just don't think that homie woke up one day and said, why are our beautiful sisters and black queens being passed over and overlooked? I just don't imagine that. I don't see that. I think he kind of just wanted to low-key rag on black women and rub it in their faces on the low. And this is somewhat of a reoccurring theme when it comes to a segment of black men, I'll say. Whether they are swirlers or interracial daters themselves, or even black men who are for, black women only, like, black women only for them. But it's a recurring theme being low-key pushed lately that, black women are undesirable and that they have no options outside of Blackistan besides being pumped and dumped. Like, that's pretty much their options, like being a fetish, pretty much options along the lines of just sex versus, long-term relationships, marriage, kids, and things like that. Right. And, again, this agenda that's being pushed lately by black men especially, and even some black women jumping in the mix and pushing the agenda. The black male identifying black women are a very dangerous bunch. And so the agenda being pushed lately is that black women are undesirable, have no options outside of Blackistan besides being pumped and dumped, and that citizenship to Swirltopia is just not in the cards for them. Like, it's not going to happen for them. They can't, swirl and win, right? After all, they can't even date in the black community and win, So, black women really don't have those options like that, like other groups of women do, per them, right? Or like black men do, per them, right? And, I, went over that before and made lots of jokes about that bullshit too. But I think when it comes to black men and black women, I think black men are willing to tend to have low standards, low qualities, low expectations when it comes to dating outside the community. While black women, on the other hand, tend to have higher expectations and higher standards when dating outside of the community, And I think black women are just a little more aware because of what goes on within the community and as well what goes on outside of the community, that, if they're interracially dating, then it kind of has to be quote unquote worth it, right? While black men, on the other hand, there's not that expectation of it just, interracially dating has to be quote unquote worth it. Worth their time, like that, right? Like, you probably are less likely to see Keisha, stepping out with, say, meth head Billy, and vice versa, to an extent. But what I'm trying to say is, like, you're less likely to see like black women stepping out with, like, undesirable, low quality white men or non-black men versus black men who you probably are a bit more likely to see stepping out with low quality non-black women and undesirable non-black women who seemingly come off as rejects from their own community, and like they couldn't really hack it in their own community. And sometimes that's the case where it's like especially when it comes to like white women, many of them, it's like they kind of know that they have more pull within black spaces versus white spaces because they know that white men aren't checking for them like that because of one thing or the other. So they just weigh their options and say, hey, they can get more, quote unquote, bang for their buck with black men versus white men or even other non-black men, right? And of course, people try to pass this off as being like desirability and equating to black men's desirability uh, versus black man's nest ability. Like I think the women are seeing these black men, they probably feel like, oh, I can come over being, fat, overweight, obese, got a couple of kids on the side, still come over to Blackistan and be treated like a big, thick, chunky white Nubian queen. Right? Wasn't Charlemagne pushing that a little while ago? Like a little while ago, he was pushing that. He um, looking for a white Nubian queen and stuff like that. But another reason why you don't see, NFL hopeful white men with black women or just non-white women in general like that is because they know the value of intra-racially dating and intra-racial unions, meaning, dating within their community, right? They know the value of that in helping them maintain the system of white degeneracy, right? So, yeah, you may see like, oh, white men with Asian women, and even white men with like Latinas, and even with black women. You will see that, but they make sure to push, as far as like the media is concerned, to push white man with white woman. Notice, because people are saying like, oh, white men are just crazy for Asian women. And I feel like that's a segment of white men, not just every single white man in general. That's another story though. But you notice that being pushed um, by black men as somewhat of a low-key rebuttal um, when black women bring up the fact that, white men are like race first, right? Um, And the thing is, have you ever seen a romantic comedy starring a white man and an Asian woman? Have you ever seen like an action movie starring a white man and an Asian woman who he's trying to rescue? Or perhaps an Asian woman who he falls in love with sometime. Have you seen a Asian Bond girl? Most of the Bond girls are white. I mean, Halle Berry was the closest thing they had to like, a fully black um, Bond girl, and I think she's probably the only Bond girl of color at all, as far as I know. I could be wrong, um, but notice that, right? And as well on these like talk shows. Um, our news talk shows and whatnot, you don't really see Asian women being paired up with white men like that. And, and not to say that those unions don't happen and that they don't exist and things like that, because they do, but you notice though, right? You don't really see them playing out in the media like that, right? And we can go to like statistical data saying like, oh, these unions do play out, but the thing is, you don't see them playing out in the media like that. In fact, you're probably more likely to see a white man with a black woman in the media than a white man and an Asian woman in the media. You know? So I say all of that to say that um, the white men, I think they are raised to be race first and to know the value of being race first and to maintain the system of white degeneracy, while black men, on the other hand, are low key. I don't know if black men are really raised to be race first and to, you know, specifically and only date within the black community like that. I think black women are raised more so like that, but black men, I don't know. I think black men are seemingly one way or another fed like a multicultural diet or theme, whatever we want to call it, like low key fed multiculturalism. And sometimes they'll sprinkle some pro-black seasoning on it so that folks can, be a little confused. Like, oh, you can be a pro-black multiculturalist. Well, they don't put it like that, but the pro-black seasoning makes them think that they pro-black, right? Just because you put some barbecue seasoning on some fried chicken don't mean that it's barbecue chicken. It's just fried chicken with barbecue seasoning. Right. And it's sort of like the same thing. It's like just because you sprinkle some pro-black seasoning on some multiculturalism does not mean that it's pro-blackness. It's just multiculturalism with some pro-black seasoning thrown in the mix, right? But that is very much pushed on the low too. Pro-black multiculturalism, right? Where like the black dudes pretty much the whole pro-black agenda is pretty much just circles around black men and circles back to black men, and it doesn't really circle back to black women much other than them supporting it, but not them actually having direct benefits from it. And another thing that I noticed during these interracial conversations or these interracial dating discussions or whatnot, when it comes to black women, one way or another, it seems to always center around black women dating white men. And I'm like, well, there's other groups of men out there. Even when it's black women for interracial dating, it tends to center around white men. When it's black men against black women interracial dating, of course, it centers around white men. And when it's black women against black women interracially dating white men, or interracially dating, it centers around white men. I can understand them centering it around white men because it's an easier argument to offer a rebuttal against, right? Because of the history and things like that. Even though those same things can be applied to dating white women, but I don't really see that being pushed on black men like that. But that's another story. But yeah, I just wondering about that. Like, what's all that about, right? And some people accuse like the, I guess, hypergamy movement, if we want to call it that, the level up in hypergamy movement among black women as being very much centered around swirling with white men, which I don't agree with. And I feel like I can see where some people may view it as that, even though I don't really think it's completely that, but I can see some people taking it that way. And then I can see some people taking it that way on purpose to attack the level up hypergamy movement, But honestly, to keep it all the way 100, to keep it all the way real, when it comes to black women in hypergamy, I do feel like the black women who have the best chance of being hypergamous, would be black women who are open to interracially dating. Not to say that if you're a black man, only black woman, that you can't get a come up and you can't practice hypergamy, because it's possible, but I do feel like the higher you go, the more so the black men, they're there, in small numbers, but those black men themselves are oftentimes open to swirling and interracially dating and just probably just not open for relationships or marriage like that. It's a lot of factors that factor into that too. So I think when it comes to black women, I kind of think that, black women who want to level up and practice hypergamy and things like that, I think if you really want to do that, then you're probably going to have to be open to swirling, you know. And for some black women, that's just not an option for them. For some other black women, that is an option for them. So, I find that to be, a very interesting thing to explore right there. Like, do you have to be open to swirling and interracially dating as a black woman to, really practice hypergamy and I guess really win at hypergamy? Because when you think of the black women in the media, who really have been able to, I guess, like level up and you know there's black women who are with black men and have leveled up. Say Jada Pinkett Smith, you know, you know, Beyonce, you know. But there's also black women who aren't with black men who have leveled up, so to speak. Like say Eve, the rapper, right? Or um, George Lucas's wife, you know, etc. Um, but yeah, I wanted to push that question out there and let you guys marinate on that and think about that for a minute or two, for a while maybe. Mm. And as well, I don't really think that the pro-black agenda really mixes well with the hypergamy movement. I'm not sure if that's really a good mix. So if you're like a pro-black black woman, could you really do the hypergamy thing? Because your pro-blackness is going to tell you that, black men are, it's black men first, and it's also that, oh, black men are being held down by the system of white degeneracy. So you should be a bit more understanding and, accommodating and working with them and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? So I'm not sure if I think those things may be somewhat of a conflict of interest. Can you be hypergamous and pro-black? Something to think about there. But one more thing I want to talk about before I leave you is something that I posed earlier, a question that I posted or presented earlier, which is the more important question that needs to be explored, which is why don't we see more black players with black wives, girlfriends, like you do their white counterparts, right? And I'm not sure if black men really understand completely that, black women are necessary to maintaining blackness and perpetuating blackness and necessary to prospering as well as just necessary for survival, you know. But I just think that, I don't know, the community is sending black men sort of like a message of low-key multiculturalism while black women are being fed like a message of pro-blackness, right? And as well, there's a lot of factors that go into that as well, but um, I don't, it's just another video for another day, but yeah. But I feel like Steven Jackson, he wouldn't want to explore that question. And I do think if we were to explore that question, then it would circle back to black women being to blame for one reason or another. Like, oh, black women have bad attitudes. Oh, black women wear weave and makeup. Like, no other group of women ever does. But, circling back to, oh, that shouldn't matter. You know, oh, you sound like you're jealous and bitter and angry. You should get some self-esteem. It's just gonna circle back to somehow black women being to blame for it, with no culpability to black men as a collective, and black men who don't do it, holding men within their collective accountable for doing it. That's not going to happen either. All right. Black women will do it with black women and try to do it with black men, but that's as far as it's going to go. All right. All right. Black men will do it with black women, but not black men. And that's about as far as it's going to go. That's how it's going to play out. All right. Spoiler alert. My bad. But that's how that movie's going to play out and end. So, I think black men as a collective need to take a note from the white men and put that black woman first. You better put that woman first, baby. You better put that woman first. Better put that black woman first. Yeah. But I just don't see that happening at the moment. I just think black people and black men are just a bit too lost in the sauce. And as well, black women will support this type of fuckery too. So that's another issue that goes into it as well, that plays a factor into it as well. But yeah, I think I've mentioned all I gotta say for the moment. So I'm gonna bring this video to a close. So thanks for watching, y'all. Let me know what you think in the comments section about all this buffoonery. And I will see you in the next video. Adios and goodbye for now. You better put that woman first. You better put that black woman first. Before you wind up in a hearse. Before she smack you with her purse. You better put that black woman first, baby. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. All right now.